Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be looking at how to win the game in Champion Select, is what I'm calling this, for League of Legends. So we're going to be talking about considerations for the game before the game even starts, and just maybe more broadly about just how to win outside of anything else that's going on inside of the game. So the stuff I want to cover here is I want to talk about dodging, scouting ahead to figure out whether you should dodge the game, like figuring out theories for how you might dodge the game. And then I want to talk about this concept of playing to win. So thinking of winning as a process and not as a result. So trying to move away from this results-oriented focus into a process-oriented focus and what that means. We'll talk more specifically about surrendering games, learning from games, lowering your champion pool and understanding which types of champions are usually really high impact, and then that'll be it. So I'm going to be recycling a little bit of this from, well, a substantial amount of this. I'm recycling and updating it from last year when I did my pick ban dodge video that was like last March. So with things that I've learned over the last 9 months or so, and then some of the stuff that has changed regarding the meta, it's going to be an updated version of that. So if you've seen that video, you might see some familiar stuff here, but we've gained probably, I don't know, 9,000 new subs since I published that video. So a lot of people probably haven't dug through the archives to see that. So I'm giving you an updated version here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so using your dodge to gain elo. So I want to talk about that first. And this is something that's not necessarily the sexiest topic. A lot of people don't like dodging. Some people don't even know what dodging is. But a lot of really high elo people, if they're being honest, they're going to say they dodge a lot of games. Okay, now if they're streaming and they're challenger or something like that, they're not going to dodge that much because a dodge would cost them 15 minutes or so on a stream, right? So they're just going to play it out. And they really don't have anything to prove, like Pansar Dragon and Double Lift and some of these other, like really high ranked challenger people are just going to play it out. And they can be confident that for the most part, people in their game are going to be competent, right? They're going to know what's going on. They're going to play some pretty decent League of Legends most of the time. Okay, but for us mortals that are down in lower brackets, platinum, gold, silver, bronze, even low diamond to an extent, there's going to be some wide variance in player capabilities a lot of times, and dodging can be very helpful, especially if it's the first dodge of the day and it's only going to be 5 minutes, and then you just get to pop right back in there and find another game in 2 minutes. It can be worth your time to consider a dodge. So let's talk about what dodging is, what is LP, what is your hidden MMR rating, how do those interact with each other, and how does dodging play into that equation? So the TLDR, if you want to skip this section, go to the next one, is you should use your first dodge if you think you have a 40% or less chance to win a game. You should use your second dodge if you have a 25% or less chance to win a game. Okay, and we'll talk about how you can roughly estimate those percentages here in just a second. All right, so dodging a game results in a loss of your LP, your league points, but it does not affect your hidden MMR. So league points is what you actually see in your league client. I don't have my client open right now, but that's what you see. It's some number from 0 to 100, and, you'll be platinum 5, silver 3, whatever it is, you'll have so much LP. Okay, that does not affect who you get matched with. All right, that's just for show. That's just for funsies. They did that. In Season 3, they switched over to that. They used to have this hard number called an MMR, which is matchmaking rating, which is an ELO system. You might hear it called ELO as well, which is a chess term. And basically that just means that if you play against stronger opponents, you're going to get more points. If you play against weaker opponents, you're going to lose more points. Okay? And so it's designed to create an ongoing system where people should always be matched at a similar skill level. Okay, so this is a hidden 4-digit number that you never see and Riot does not release for some reason. But some websites like op.gg will try to estimate what that number is, but they don't know for sure. So in the old school days, this number used to be if you had 1,400 MMR, everyone starts at 1,200. And then every game you'd gain or lose roughly 20 points. And whenever you got to 1,400, that was silver. 1,515 was gold. 1,850 was platinum. And then I think 2,100 was diamond, and there didn't used to be master or challenger tier. That number still exists under the hood. You just don't see it. And so how this gets expressed is you will lose or gain a lot more of your league points based on your hidden MMR. So if you're and there's a correlation between a certain league a certain amount of league points, and a hidden MMR. So if your hidden MMR is roughly equal to what they would consider to be your league and your LP, then you're going to gain and lose about 20 per. If your hidden MMR is much lower than your league points, you're going to be losing a lot. So you might lose 20 or 25 per game, and then you're only going to win like maybe 15 per game, maybe even as low as 13 per game. Okay, so that means that your hidden MMR is much, much lower than your league points. If it's much higher, you might gain a lot. So you might gain 30, 35. That's how sometimes these Smurfs will, you know, people who just make a new account and just win a ton of games, they might be winning, you know, 40 LP per, because their hidden matchmaking rating is much, much higher than their LP. Sometimes people skip entire divisions. You'll see a lot of that at the start of the season here in about a week or so. So that's also how you see if you get matched, like if you are, you know, a Platinum 5 player and you get matched with like a Silver 1 player, sometimes it just may not make any sense, but it's because of the hidden matchmaking rating is way, way lower. And you can get your matchmaking rating really low when you get to the bottom. So when you get to Division 5, so like if you're, you know, Gold 5 and you lose a ton of games, your LP is not going to go down unless you get demoted, and it takes a lot to get demoted. So if you lose 7 games in a row at Gold 5, you're probably not going to get demoted right away, but your MMR is going to be really low, and so you're going to start getting placed with like Silver 3s and Silver 4s, and so that's kind of how that works. So I don't know why Riot does it that way, but that's just how they do it, and that's the difference between LP and MMR. Okay, so how does this affect dodges? So if you dodge a game, you're going to lose some LP, but you are never going to lose matchmaking rating for a dodge, okay? So that number is what matters. That determines how much LP you're gaining and losing per game. That's the delta, if you want to think of it in terms of, I don't know, like a physics type of concept, okay? That's the change. So you could dodge 50 games in one day. You'd lose a lot of LP, but you wouldn't lose any MMR. And so that means when you go back and start winning again after all of those dodges, you're going to be winning with even more LP. So if you dodge 3 times in a day, right, and you end up losing 23 LP off of that, if you were gaining, you know, 18 LP per win, now your LP has dropped because of those dodges to a lower level, but your MMR has stayed the same. So now when you go back and play, you're going to be gaining like 20 or 21 LP on your win because your LP has dropped, but your MMR has stayed the same, which means your MMR is higher relative to your LP. Okay, I don't cover that too much here because those are specifics that I just can't answer for you because you don't know your exact MMR rating. So just keep in mind that it's dodging is basically even better than I'm explaining it right here because it's not affecting your MMR. So I'm going to talk about it just in terms of gaining LP, assuming that your MMR always matches your LP or is close to it. Okay, so a dodge occurs if you leave a game early in Champion Select. So you can just exit out of the game. That's usually the easiest way to do it. You just press X, you know, on the client. It's going to say, are you sure you want to do this? You say yes if you want to dodge, okay? So the dodge penalties, you lose 3 LP and your 5-minute timeout. So you cannot join any queue for 5 minutes after you dodge. That includes ranked, normal, flex queue. I think it even includes random game mode, so you can't even go play URF while you're timed out, I think. Not 100% about the URF, but I know it includes normal queue, flex queue, and ranked queue. Okay, so you're timed out of everything. So never use dodges in normal games. Okay, it's not worth it. It's not worth any ranking, so who cares? Just play out your normal games if you intend to also play normal and ranked. All right, so don't dodge normals. Because if you use your dodge in a normal, then you're not going to have, you know, your dodge for ranked later. So just play out the normal games. No matter how much people are trolling, just get your practice in. That's fine. Okay, your second dodge is 10 LP, and it's a 30-minute lockout of everything. And then every dodge after that, as far as I know, is a lockout. Now, Riot might step in and give you a warning or something if you dodge like, you know, 12 dodges in a day. I don't know. I've dodged as much as 4 or 5 in a day before without any sort of repercussions. But everything beyond the second is just an LP dodge, okay? So you should use your 3-point dodge every single day. Consider this a get-out-of-jail-free card. You have the power to fold a game. Basically, think of it kind of like poker, where you're not blinded into a hand and it's just really cheap to just fold. So you get dealt like a 2-7 offsuit and everyone else is betting really heavy into you and you're like, this is going to be really bad. I'm just going to fold. And you should fold a lot in poker, just as you should dodge quite a lot in League, okay? So, you know, you see that you have a Teemo 80 carry, and you've got, I don't even know, just like goofy Olaf middle, and you've got like a top lane, you know, cleanse, teleport, Janna or something. You know, you just have like crazy stuff going on everywhere. Use that dodge, okay? So you should try to use your dodge every day. Think of it as a really important resource that you have. Okay, so let's talk about how this works. All right, so the first dodge is 3 LP. So assume that you're gaining or losing 20 LP pers. That means that your LP is about equal to your hidden MMR. If you have a 40% chance to win a game, then you would lose 4 LP on average if you played that same match 10 times, right? So you'd have 4 wins, which would give you 80 LP. You'd have 6 losses, which is minus 120, for a total of negative 40 net LP over 10 games is negative 4 LP per game. So if you have a 40% chance to win, you're losing on average 4 LP per game. If you dodge, you're losing 3. So you're actually gaining 1 LP effectively by dodging a 40% chance to win game. And that amount of LP preserved increases as your win percentage decreases. So if it goes down to the 10 LP, then it needs to be a 25% chance for you to win, for you to save some LP, to save 1 LP. So you should dodge a game with your second dodge if you have less than a 25% chance. Is how the math works out. So what this means is over time, if you play League 200 days per year, which is like 3 or 4 days per week, you just play, you know, a couple of games a day, just pretty casual. And you dodge 1 game per day that's a 40% chance to win, you save 200 LP over the course of a year. That's 2 divisions. So that's the difference between you getting gold 2, or you getting silver 2 and gold 5, or you getting plat 2 and diamond 5, or bronze 2, silver 5. It's a big deal over time. You need to be playing to win the season, not to win every game. And I'm going to talk about that concept more down below, but this is the first sort of time that I'm going to mention it. You need to think long con, big picture stuff. And if you use your 3-point dodge on a bad game that looks like it's a 40% or less chance to win, that means, you know, if you want to think of it in terms of positions, that means 3 of the 5 people on your team are likely going to fail versus their counterpart on the enemy team. That'd give you a 40% chance to win. If that happens, you dodge every day, 200 days, you'll gain 2 divisions, guaranteed. Okay, so it's a really, really powerful tool, and a lot of people just won't do this. They'll just play it out. They'll say, this looks pretty sketchy, but I don't know, whatever. I'll just play it out. That's terrible. Don't do that. I've gotten murdered in this preseason by doing that. You need to dodge. If it looks really bad, you need to dodge. Go do something else. Go play another game. Go like text your friends. Go do some homework. Go grab something to eat. Just do not play the game if it looks really bad. Okay? It's not your... Now... And frankly, it doesn't matter what's going on. You know, like maybe you have a troll, you know, some other person who's just like playing something ridiculous, and you can get frustrated and say, why are they doing this to me? Why is this every single game? Those are really the wrong questions to ask, right? Because that's just going to happen in matchmaking. You can't do anything about that. What you can do is decide whether you want to play it or not. That's within your control. That's what you can do something about. And so just dodge. You know, and it is frustrating. Like I said, I've had to dodge 4 games in a row before. But that was when I went on some of my biggest runs of last season, is when I dodged a lot. As part of what almost got me to Diamond last season. And we'll talk about that here in a second. But that's what you have to do. You have to be consistent, you have to be disciplined, and you have to fold. You have to dodge if it is a bad game, okay? Now... Yeah, remember that a loss negates a win whenever you're looking at this. So if you win 9 out of 10, you're not gaining 18 LP on average. You're gaining 16 LP on average because a loss cancels a win. So if you play 10 games, you win 9 of 10, and you gain 20, lose 20 per, you're gaining 16 LP on average, not 18 LP on average. Okay, so it's just important for these statistical calculations because a loss cancels out a win. Okay, if you have kind of some weird LP gains, so if you should dodge less if you're gaining more LP than you're losing. So if you're gaining 25 and you're losing 15, then you're getting +1 LP per game at 40%. So you wouldn't want to dodge at 40% if you're gaining, 25 LP. Okay, that's pretty obvious. If you're gaining a lot more LP than you're losing, you should just play out more games. Okay, in terms of LP. If you're losing a lot more than you're gaining, so if you're gaining 15 LP and losing 25, you should be dodging even more. So in that scenario, you'd be losing 9 LP per at 40%. So you should use your second dodge at a 35% win rate rather than a 25% win rate, because you're going to be losing 11 LP at 35. So you should be dodging a ton. If you're only gaining 15, you're losing like 25, you should dodge a lot of games. Okay, like only keep the really good ones. So let's talk about, so that's basically dodging. So if something looks sketchy, you need to dodge, but how do we determine if something looks sketchy? What is our probability of success? Now, there's not an exact answer to this. There's not an exact science to this, right? But there are a few theories that can help inform your decisions. So number one is the strong champion theory. Okay, so if each player accounts for a 20% success chance for a team, then a head-to-head comparison between roles can give you a rough estimation of success. So for example, if you believe that your team has a stronger champion for 3 of the 5 roles, then you may estimate that you have a 60% chance of winning. Okay, so think about these metrics to measure strength. The high scaling of a champion. How useful is it in the composition? Is it uniquely powerful? Right? Is there limited counterplay to it? And is it a consistent champion that's almost always going to perform well? So, for example, if you have a Twitch bot lane, something like a Kassadin mid lane, and like a Malachi top lane, all of those are really strong, almost best in class at their position. And so you know that Twitch and Kassadin, if it gets to 25 to 30 minutes, they're going to be relevant. They're going to be powerful. It's really hard to mess those champions up. There aren't many skill shots with them. Both of them could take off and just do an obscene amount of damage. So there's a pretty decent chance that you're probably going to win the game. I mean, it depends on certain matchups, but that's really good. And if you pick something that's really good bot lane to go with Twitch, right? So if you pick, a Janna or a Rakan or something else that a Taric, something else that's going to complement the Twitch really well, then you've got it locked up probably. Even if you have something goofy, even if it's like Teemo Jungle or something like that, the fact that you have 4 other positions in this scenario is really strong. You could say, you know what, we have a pretty good chance of winning this game. It's over 40%, almost certainly. So even though we have something goofy going on, we can still estimate that we're probably going to win. Whereas on the flip side, if you have something like, I don't know, Sivir bottom, Yasuo middle, I don't know, top lane, just something, insert something that's out of favor, and then you have like a really good jungler, like you have a Shyvana or a Zen or just something that's really popular right now, it's strong. You might want to consider dodging that because you might have too many goofy things that just don't do damage, or there's a real high probability of failure. Like Yasuo. Yasuo can be really strong, but that he's not consistent at all most of the time. Like most Yasuos die a lot. Like, yes, they can be very powerful in the late game if they get there, but there is a really high probability people are going to fail on that champion because he's really hard to play correctly. So that's what I'm talking about is, yes, Yasuo has high scaling. Yes, he is he can potentially have limited counterplay if he gets really far ahead, but there's a huge margin for error on him. So just thinking about strong champion theory is useful. However, keep in mind certain counters. Like there are weird champions that don't seem that powerful in theory, but they might have very good matchups against certain champions that are considered more universally powerful. So for example, Rumble is often considered pretty powerful top lane. He's a great lane bully, but Mundo counters him really hard. Or, for example, like Ahri is a pretty good mid laner, but Annie counters her really hard. Or maybe you have an Ezreal who's a really strong bot laner right now, but maybe they have a Vayne who's really good into Ezreal. So you have to consider counter picks as well. But overall, this is the easiest one to think of. It's just strong champion, just which team has 3 or more winning matchups. Okay, another theory to think of is winning lane theory. So a really common assumption is if a champion wins lane, then it's much more likely to be able to win the game. That's not always true, but if you do well in your lane, if you outperform your opposition, then it's likely that you're going to be able to win. So there are 3 ways to win lane. There's the standard way, gold and CS. So you get kills, you get more CS. Pressure, so being able to take towers, so being able to roam effectively, and scaling. Scaling is a form of winning. So, you know, if you are playing Vayne and you're against a Misfortune, even if the Misfortune's up 15 CS, if you haven't died in lane and she's not up much more than 15 CS in lane, that's a win for you. You won that lane. Even though you're behind, you scale harder, and so that's a win. It's on her to pressure you to make sure that you die or that you get held back more. Or if it's like Kassadin against, I don't know, Brand or something in the mid lane, right? If Kassadin's down 10 or 15 CS, that's fine. You know, if he gets out of lane just down that much, because he's going to scale later. Okay, so scaling is a form of winning lane. So it's best to have all 3 of these qualities. If you have superior scaling and superior pressure and superior golden kills, then that's sort of the golden triangle there. So if you have a Vayne bot lane who has 2 kills and takes the first tower, I mean, that's that's exactly where you want to be, right? Whereas, you know, if it's like a Jhin who's up CS, and maybe he even takes the first tower, but he's basically even with Twitch. Well, I'm trying to... Like, he's pretty much even with Twitch and CS, or he hasn't killed Twitch. Then that could actually be bad, even though he's up overall. So, for example, like Draven Lulu is a winning lane over Ezreal Janna for all 3 reasons. Draven is most likely to kill and get more CS. Draven's going to push Ezreal to tower, and Draven scales better than Ezreal later in the game. That's a little bit less true than it used to be, but Ezreal has been nerfed a couple of times. I think it's fairly safe to say that. It depends on matchups. Ezreal does still scale really well late into the game, but overall, you know, Draven, that's going to be a winning lane probably against them. And Janna doesn't have as much synergy with Ezreal as Lulu does with Draven. Okay, Twitch Janna, however, is likely to be a winning lane over Lucian Karma. So Lucian's more likely to get kills in CS in lane to go up, and that Lucian will probably push Twitch to the tower and thus have a bit more pressure on the map if he wants to roam. But Twitch is going to dramatically outscale Lucian unless the Lucian is really far behind, and Janna is going to outscale Karma. So unless the Twitch and Janna are down like an astronomical amount of CS, or they die a lot in lane, then this is going to be a winning lane probably for Twitch Janna. And it's important to consider that, because reasonable people can disagree about the importance of scaling and whether or not you should include scaling as winning lane, but there's no other theory that explains why Janna is consistently a top 5 winning support, often a top 3 winning support in most metas, even when she loses every lane, right? So Janna almost never wins lane in terms of kills or in terms of CS for her AD carry, but yet she wins a lot of games. How can you possibly explain that? Because scaling is that important. It's that important that because basically it forces them to do stuff to you. If they don't get kills on you, if they don't force you off of CS, you're just gonna flat out win the game later because you're gonna outscale them. I have an entire Janna guide if you want to know why Janna's that strong. So just look on the main page if you want to know more about Janna. But the only explanation for that is that people need to consider scaling when you're considering whether or not a champion's winning a lane. So this baffles a lot of people, right? They'll say, I won my lane, how do I lose the game? You know, they'll play Pantheon or Darius top lane, and they'll be up like, you know, 20 CS and maybe 3 kills, and maybe they're against a Maokai top lane, or maybe they're against a Shen top lane, and they'll say, I won my lane, but these stupid, you know, my stupid teammates lost the game. It's like, well, you got outscaled, bro, because you didn't go elsewhere to impact the map to use your advantage, and so Maokai and Shen got a bunch of items, and now you can't kill them anymore, and they just crowd control your whole team and win. Or, you know, it'll be a Jhin bot lane, and they'll say, oh, I just completely crushed this Twitch in lane, he was 0-3, or he was 0-4, I was up a full item on him, and then, of course, like 25 minutes rolls around, and my teammates all fed him, and now he's, you know, he's like 6-4, and wins the game. It's like, yeah, because he scales harder than you. So he wins part of that in Champion Select. Like, so he probably wins the lane in Champion Select. That's kind of the theme of this whole video, right? Is he won in Champion Select most of the time because he's just going to outscale you. Because it's on you, if you're the aggressive early game champion, not only to win your lane, but to close out the game before the higher scaling champion catches up. And this is why I don't recommend things like Darius, Pantheon, Jhin, because if you Lee Sin, because if you don't close games, even if you're really far ahead, you're going to lose. You're going to get outscaled. And in bronze and silver, people just don't close games, or gold, or even platinum. People just do not close. And so just naturally, the higher scaling team is just going to win most of the time, because most games are going to go 25 plus minutes. Okay. So just keep that in mind. So, you know, you want to keep in mind scaling, winning lane theory. So if you have champions that are really high scaling, or that are going to, you know, potentially win their lane one way or another, if you have 3 of those lanes, you're probably going to win the game. If you have 3 lanes that win, either through sheer outscaling or that are going to be able to pressure and take massive advantage in the mid game, they're going to win. Scaling's the easiest to understand. That's the most reliable to count on. You know, if, like I said, if you have Twitch bottom, Kassadin middle, and Maokai top, it's going to be hard to lose that game. Like, you're going to have to, your team's going to really have to goof some stuff up to lose that game. Okay, so winning lane, you know, if your team has 3 winning lanes, you're probably going to win. If your team has 2 winning lanes, most likely, it's a good chance you're probably going to win. So keep that in mind. Okay, experience theory. Now, this is one that is probably the easiest to quantify, but you have to be careful quantifying this. So what you can do, and I got the idea for updating this video from watching an LS video where he was coaching Trick 2G, which is pretty funny. I try to watch other coaching videos and other instructional videos so that I learn as a player, so I can bring some of that learning over to you guys and gals watching this video. But one thing in the comments, they're like, man, this changed my life. I didn't know that you could do that in op.gg, is to search up multiple people. So you can go to op.gg. You can search for multiple people. This is Mr. Magpie that I coached earlier. So you can do that. You can search for multiple people if you want on there. And how you do that is whenever you're in game, you just copy paste. It'll say such and such join the game, such and such join the game. Like right when you go into a lobby, it'll have all 5 people join the game. You just literally just highlight it all, press C for copy, and then just bring it over to this V, and it'll find it for you. Even it takes out the has joined the game. It knows to take that out. You don't even have to take that out manually. It knows that, and then it'll go through and it'll show you what everyone plays. And so then you can see what are their most played champions. You can click on them to see sort of how they're doing. You can see their rank. And so you can get a whole lot of information off of this. So just copy, paste it, and take a look. Do your allies have experience on the champion? So if I was looking at me, I say, okay, I really want this guy playing Rakan, right? I do not want this guy playing Sona. I've had a really terrible offseason with Sona. Right, so I don't want to see him playing Sona, don't want to see him playing Alistar Taric. I want to see Rakan or I want to see Janna. All right, Leona's fine. Okay, so if they have something that's much lower than like 48% on a champion, that's bad. Or if they have less than 10 games on a champion, that's pretty bad. So if I was looking at King of Limbs here, I want to see him playing Sion. Right, no Janna, I don't want to see him playing anything else. I want to see him playing Sion if I'm his teammate. Right. So just take a look and see, do they have experience on the champion? Do they at least have experience in the role? Okay, so maybe they don't have a lot of experience on Twitch that they picked. Maybe they only have a few games, but are they at least an AD carry main? You know, if they're playing an off role they have no experience on. So if they're a support main and, you know, they're playing top for the first time, that's awful because not only are they playing a champion they don't know, but they're also playing a role that they don't understand most likely. And so this is a good way to spot autofills. And a good way to think of this is if there are 3 strikes, you're out because you should be playing something that you know, right? So that's one person who's taken care of. But for everyone else, if there's 3 other people that don't know what they're doing, that's 80% of your team that's going to have a disadvantage against them, right? That's one person other than you. Actually, no, there's you. So you should be set. If there's 3 other people, then that's a 40% chance. There's one other person on your team that knows what they're doing. That's a 40% chance. That's 40% of your team knows what they're doing and is playing a champion they have experience on in a role that they have experience on. There's 3 other people. That's a 60% of your team is probably going to fail at what they're doing. And that's not always the case. You know, sometimes people practice a lot of stuff in normals before they take it to ranked. You know, you can go check that out, look at their match history and just see, have they been practicing that? But that's a pretty good rule of thumb, is if you have 3 people that are either playing champions they don't know or playing roles that they don't play, you should probably dodge. Okay, unless, like, especially if it's not a powerful pick. So you can combine some of these theories, right? You can say, okay, well, maybe they don't have experience on it. Maybe they're playing a good champion. Maybe they're playing a Twitch. Maybe they're playing a Kassadin. Maybe they're playing Malachi. That might be a little bit more forgivable, right? So if Kassadin only has like 5 games on Kassadin, but it's still a really good pick in the matchup, then you might be able to look the other way on that, right? Or if someone has, on the flip side, if someone's playing a champion that you maybe historically don't think of as that great, maybe they're playing Heimerdinger mid, this person has 800 games on Heimerdinger mid with like a 70% win rate or something like that, maybe give them a pass. I will say that's very dangerous, though. I've played so many games where someone looks like, I'm thinking, that's a terrible champion in this meta, or that's really bad in this matchup, but I'll get tricked into playing it. So I'll say, you know what, they have like 50 plus games on the champion, they have a 60% win rate, and then they just go like 0-12 or something. Like, it's 60% win rate. I swear, when I was like Platinum 1 or Platinum 2, there's a Singe player with 1,200 Singe games that had like a 57% win rate on it. And I was thinking, I was like, man, I really don't like Singe top, but I guess we'll go for it. He goes 0-13 in the game. So sometimes you can't give people a pass if it's something that's going to be really bad in a matchup or meta. And that's just the sad truth of it. I know that there are a lot of people out there that'll say things like, play whatever you want, you can win with anything. Sort of. If you are dramatically better than the person on the enemy team, then yes, you can win with anything, right? And I always use the example of someone like, LeBron James right now, right? Like, yeah, LeBron James or any other sort of, sports star could go up against a junior varsity team and do all kinds of goofy stuff. They could play with no shoes. They could shoot shots behind the backboard. They could probably shoot half-court shots. They could play defense with no hands, just body up on people and just stand in front of them. They could do all of this stuff and probably win the game because they're dramatically better than other people, right? Just like a challenger can go make a Smurf account and play in gold and play whatever he wants or she wants and win the game. And that's what you see in a lot of these all caps videos, are people who are Diamond Plus that are smurfing, playing against gold people or low platinum people or something like that, playing really goofy, ridiculous stuff and winning with it. But that's not how it usually works with us mortal people. If you are actually on the junior varsity team and you show up to a game with no shoes on and you try to shoot half-court shots, the coach is going to bench you immediately, right? You're not going to be able to get away with that. Just like if you play ridiculous stuff, or if your teammates play ridiculous stuff consistently, you're going to lose most of the time. It's just all there is to it. And so, use the experience theory, think about it, but be careful with it. Just because someone has a lot of experience on a champion doesn't necessarily mean it's a good fit for the game that you're playing. They might have a really good counter pick against it. It may not be that good in a meta. I mean, maybe, this person got a really good win rate in a previous patch when the champion was very overpowered. So maybe they played Caitlyn, 100 times when Caitlyn was super powerful in the middle of last season. But now that she's been nerfed a lot and now that the runes have changed around a lot, maybe she doesn't win with her as much anymore. So maybe she has a 57% win rate with Caitlyn, but lately she's only been winning 40%. So you just need to look into that, investigate that, but just at least take a look at it and just see what your team is doing. Now, once again, you're not doing this to flame people. You're not doing this to hate. You're just doing this to see if you need to dodge the game or not, right? So you're just trying to see, just realistically, objectively, as much as you can, do we have 40% or greater chance to win this game? If we don't have a 40% chance to win this game, I'm dodging. Okay, if we do, I'm playing it. It's that simple. So we're just trying to figure out stats. Just trying to figure out probabilities here. So it's nothing personal, not hating on anybody or any specific play styles, and there's no need to say anything to your team, right? So if this person picks, You know, Urgot jungle. You don't need to tell him, hey, you know, whatever, you ruined my game. Thanks a lot. And then dodge. Just don't say anything. Just say, you know what? Looks pretty rough. We have 2 other people that are playing stuff that they don't usually play. I'm just going to dodge. That's it. So you have to just be objective, cool, calm, and collected about it, and just think about the stats. You don't have to hate. You know, you're just trying to decide if you need to play a game or not. And I've been surprised either way, right? So there are exceptions. I've played some games that I felt really bad about that we just completely stomped them. We outplayed them big time, even though I thought we were going to lose in like 3 different lanes, and I felt really bad about it. I was like, yeah, I guess I'll play it. And then we crush them. There have been other games where I'm like, man, there's no way we can lose this. And then we end up getting stomped. So yes, there are, you know, outliers. But I'll tell you, more times than not, when I have a bad feeling about something and I play it, we lose a lot. If I have a really good feeling about something and we play it, we win a lot. So when you have a lot of experience with the game like I do, if you played thousands of games of League of Legends over years and years, and you really think critically about the game, you need to go with what you feel, right? You need to go with experience theory. You need to think very carefully about winning lane, strong champion theory. And if you're doing the, you know, the sort of calculations in your head and you're like, this just really doesn't feel that good, you should probably just dodge. Okay, so if they have experience, it's good. If they don't have experience, it's bad, but just take that into consideration with the other stuff that we've already talked about. Okay, and stats can be misleading, so you need to be careful looking at just stats, right? So it could be a low sample size, they could have very few games played, could be meta variables like I talked about before. Maybe the champion was really good earlier in the season, but it's not good anymore. You think about pick priorities, so sometimes the champion might be really good in certain counter matchups or in certain compositions, but maybe it's not good in the specific composition. You could be thinking, was this person legit boosted? Is that why they have a good win rate with that champion? Or did they used to duo with somebody a lot, but they're not duoing right now? That could be something to think of. And just think of ELO context. Some champions are just going to be a lot better in higher ELO, and some champions are going to be a lot better in lower ELO. For example, Thresh is going to be a lot better in Diamond Plus, and something like Leona or Annie is going to be a lot better in Silver or Bronze. Right? And so there's a lot of variables in there, but just in general, the thing to take away is experience in general is good, and inexperience is bad when you're doing those calculations. Okay, let's talk about this concept of playing to win, and then I'll go ahead and move on. I don't want this to be too long of a guide. I'll try to keep it to 45 minutes or less. So playing to win, you need to play to win the season, not to win every game. This is really important to drill into your mind. Even if you play casually, you're probably going to play at least a few hundred games in a season, right? If you just play, you know, maybe a game or 2 a day for 3 or 4 days a week, you're still going to play like 300 games in a season. So this means that every game matters, but you shouldn't freak out about every game, okay? Because in the long run, it's more important that you become better as a player than to obsess about specific games. And this will help you out with your psyche as well. If you take a long-term perspective, you're like, well, I kind of got screwed over this game. We had a DC on our team, or this guy just rage quit or whatever, but can't do anything about it. We're just going to move on to the next game. And just remember, it happens to the enemies too. And it's really easy for us to forget that because we don't get the same kind of experience, right? When someone on the enemy team DCs, doesn't come back, and we win the game, we just think, oh, cool, free win, move on. And that's it, right? Like we don't get that emotional about it. We don't get that mad or been out of shape about it. We don't obsess about it. We don't think that, you know, Riot is plotting some grand conspiracy against us. We just go about our business. So we don't remember that because it's insignificant to us. It's not important. People on their team are probably pissed about that. They're probably mad. They're obsessing about that. Why does it always do that to me? This is so unfair. But we're not going to remember it. Okay? We do remember the times that it happens to us, though. Right? So when we get the DC on our team, when we get the AFK, or when we get the 0-13, you know, Singe top lane, when we get the, you know, 0-7 Yasuo mid lane that rage quits, we remember that because it affects us, because we're mad. It feels like it's unjustified. It's out of our control. But statistically, you know, over the course of hundreds of games, it happens to everybody. It happens to every team. It equals out. Not every game is winnable in League of Legends. You need to understand that. Even, you know, Faker, who comes over to NA and plays solo queue, he's going to lose some games. He's not going to lose a lot of games, but he's going to lose some games because some things just can't be helped, right? Like, even if he goes 13-0 mid lane, if every single other person on the team goes like 0-10, or if he has 2 DCs or something like that, he's going to lose. Okay, so nobody's perfect. If you look at the Challenger ladder, even the top people of Challenger, right? If we go to leaderboards here, even the very top people, well, I don't even have to click on their profiles. But look at this, 54%, 54, 59, 54. You're very rarely going to see people who put in more than, a couple hundred games have higher than a 50, mid 50% win rate. That's what most people are going to be at. Okay, there are some outliers, right? Like this person's 66%. There's a couple of people that are like 60, right? There's no 70s. Okay, so the highest it's going to get is about 60. That's the very top. Whereas most people are, probably between like 53 and 57%. The vast majority of people. So you know what that means? That means if these people, Viper, the #1 person, if he plays 100 games, he's losing 46 of them. Think about that. The best player, actually, no, it's Greg. I'm sorry. It's Greg with the same percentage. The best player right now in solo queue in North America, and it's probably similar in Korea, if they played 100 games against their peers, they're going to lose 46% of them. And this is with pro players on their team, right? They have other pro players. They have people that are full-time streamers. They have the most hardcore of hardcore league players that they're playing with on their team. So they can't blame their team for that. They only win 54%. And so it's important to keep that perspective in mind as you're playing, is you're going to lose a lot. And there's going to be a lot of games that are really hard to win. I would say that, probably 20-25% of your games are just going to be unwinnable. It's going to be like 4 people on your team all feed, and there's just no way you're going to win that. The people who get those huge percentages, you'll see like Apto, 94% win rate, or Faker, 95% win rate. It's because they're smurfing. They're playing against people that are dramatically, weaker than they are in terms of the game. They're playing against silver, gold, platinum players when they get those percentages. When they start playing against their peers, when they start playing against other people that are similar to them, they're going to lose games. That's the same thing with you. If you've been in gold, you played hundreds of games in gold, you're not going to have much more than a 53 to 56% win rate. You have to work your way through that. And so don't get sad, don't get depressed, don't get too mad if you lose games. If it just feels like, oh my God, this is the 3rd game in a row I have a rage quitter or a DC where someone picked something, really stupid or whatever, that's going to happen. It happens to everybody. It happens to these people. Okay, it happens to everybody. It's just really kind of infuriating, but you have to keep the long con in mind. You can't focus on specific games like that, right? You have to play to win the season, not win the game. You're going to lose some games, unavoidable. Okay? But there are some things you can do. So #1, you can dodge, like we just talked about. And here are a couple other things you can do to help you win the season, even if you can't win every single game. So #1 is never surrender games. You hear people say this a lot, but they don't really explain why. And the reason why is statistically. It's not, you don't have to actually believe you're going to win the game. Okay? And you're not going to win a lot of these games that look really rough. You have 2 inhibitors down at 25 minutes. You're probably going to lose the game. So you don't have to believe in your heart of hearts that you're actually going to win that game, okay, in order to not surrender. You just have to believe that over time, if you play a lot of those kinds of games, even if you win a couple of games, it can be very impactful on your season. Okay, that's all you have to believe, is that you might at some point over the course of hundreds of games, you might be able to win some of those games that look unwinnable. That's all you have to believe. So you don't have to think you're actually going to win that game. Very, very important distinction. So think about this. Even if you have a 5% chance to win a game, right? So it looks impossible. 2 inhibitors down at 25. They just got Baron. They're up 15 kills. Okay, they're marching up your base. Okay? You're going to win 5 of those. If you play it 100 times, even at a 5% win rate, you're going to win 5. And that doesn't sound like a lot because you're going to lose the other 95, right? But you're going to win 5 if you play those games out. So that's 1 division per 100 games that you get, that you preserve, right? And so if you play 300 games, that's 3 divisions. So that could be the difference between ending the game in silver 3 and getting gold 5 by the end of the season. It's just if you play those impossible games and you get a couple extra wins. Let me show you how significant this is, okay? So last season, just a little history on me, I was Diamond 5 in Season 6, and I missed Diamond 5 in Season 7 by 2 games. 2. And I played about 2,000 games by the end of the season, a little bit more because I stream every day, 5 hours a day. It's 8 to 10 games per day, 300 days per year. It's over 2,000 games. People are like, oh my God, how do you play that many games? Stream life, okay? That's how it works if you're a streamer. But I didn't get it. I was 2 games short out of 2,000 games played. All I needed was 2 games out of 2,000 games played. That means if my teammates just didn't surrender, they didn't give up, they didn't AFK in the fountain, they didn't rage, they just focused up and tried to win the game, all we had to do was just win 2 more games, which is 0.1% chance to win. Okay? Even if we just had a 0.1% chance to win over 2,000 games, I would have had it. I would have had it. If people just focused up, stopped raging, stopped arguing, stopped AFKing, all I had to have is 2 more games. And they're all similar too, right? If they played, a couple of 100 games, if we just win a couple more games, they would have been up a division. They may have been up an entire league. But that's what people don't understand. They get frustrated. There's no way we can win this game. Who cares? It's stupid. This is a waste of time. Well, you don't know if it's a waste of time until the game's over. And even if it is, you don't know which games you're going to win and which games you don't. And here's the thing, crazy stuff happens. If you play a lot of League, crazy stuff happens. And I've seen it all, right? I've been on both ends of it. I've looked at these impossible games. Someone on the enemy team disconnects, right? Like there's just some thunderstorm or something. And all of a sudden we were down, whatever, the crazy amount, right? 2 inhibitors, Baron, 15 kills. All of a sudden they have a DC. They have to play really defensively for the next 15 minutes. And we get back into the game and turn around and win it. Or they get overconfident and they, don't ward their flanks and we get a really good flank kill on them. Or they just have somebody that's just like AFK split pushing. They just have this Darius on their team who just keeps split pushing. We go over there and pick him off and kill him a couple of times. And then he rages at his team and says something like, stupid teammates, you don't deserve to win anymore. And then he just AFK rages out of the game. We've all seen it on our team, right? We've had that one person where we're winning the game and he refuses to group, dies a couple of times, calls everyone stupid and AFKs. That happens on the enemy team too. So sometimes all you have to do is just kill somebody a couple of times, get them arguing with each other, get them raging, and then they get distracted or someone just outright leaves the game and you just win. So it's not logical. People aren't logical in games. Computers fail. The internet fails. Sometimes people DC, people rage out, people get tilted. People buy the wrong items or they have the wrong strategy. They just never group. I mean, maybe they're up 15 kills, but they just never group up. They just keep spreading out. And all of a sudden, their jungler with Baron is over there doing Wolves and doing Gromp instead of, grouping up mid to push with his team. Maybe their AD carry goes, they get an ace and their AD carry goes to go do red buff instead of get Baron. You don't know. People make a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of crazy stuff that happens. And, you can win games. So it's, you don't surrender. You don't never surrender. That sounds terrible with double negatives. But you should never surrender because you just don't know what's going to happen. And it's not because, you think you can actually win the games. It's because over the long run, over hundreds or thousands of games, you will win games that you thought you were not going to win. And it does add up over time. Okay. So even if you lose the vast majority of the games, it's still worth it to not surrender. Okay, learn something from every game. Now, this is something that you hear all the time, focus on yourself, don't focus on others. I think that's incorrect. I think you need to focus on yourself and others because a lot of times what you should be doing depends on what others should be doing. And I talk about this a lot in my games. The reason that a lot of self-help kind of guides say don't focus on others is because people tend to want to blame other people. Like, oh my God, this guy went 0-6. And then they lose sight of themselves, right? They lose sight of what they should be doing. That doesn't have to be the case. You can focus on others and yourself, and it is important to do so. So for example, and I get asked this all the time. People say, well, what do you do if your AD carry is bad, right? If your AD carry is 0-6, how do you possibly win? Well, you have to understand they're 0-6. You say, okay, well, we can't fight with this, 0-6 Jhin because we're going to lose. So I need to find someone else that I can fight with to win. It seems our Kassadin is 6-0 mid lane, so I'm going to try to play around the Kassadin. I'm going to put wards up for the Kassadin. I'm going to try to gank middle for the Kassadin. I'm going to do everything I can to help that person out. I'm going to use lockets on the Kassadin. Heck, I might even Knights Vow the Kassadin in a team fight instead of Knights Vowing my, 0-6 Jhin. So it is important to focus on others. It is important to know who's weak on your team and who's strong, who's making good decisions, who's making bad decisions. Maybe that Jax tried to make a dragon call without smite and you got it stolen from you. Or maybe he was just really slow on the smite and you get it stolen from you. Later on down the line, if you're thinking of doing a 50-50 Baron, don't do it because you've already seen the person miss a smite, right? You shouldn't do 50-50 Barons in general, but definitely if you have evidence that your jungler might be new to the role or they just have like lag issues or they just can't press the button fast enough to time it, don't do it. So you need to take notice. Look at their items. If someone's building really ridiculous, goofy items, play around somebody else, right? So if you have a Varus who is like rushing Bloodthirster or something, you're probably going to have to find someone else to play around, right? So it's important to notice other people, but to think about what they're doing in terms of what you should be doing. So not blaming them for going 0-6. It doesn't matter, why they're doing what they're doing or why they're in your game, why it seems like they're incompetent and they're in your game. It doesn't matter. They're in your game. Okay, it doesn't matter. You don't do the matchmaking. You don't decide. Sometimes matchmaking fails. That's just all there is to it. Okay, but what you can do is say, okay, this is what's going on. This is what I need to be doing. I'm going to adjust my gameplay. I'm going to adjust my decisions based on what my allies are doing. What's going to give us the best chance to win. So it is important to look at other people, but only in respect to how it affects you and your strategy for how you want to win the game. Okay, now a good way to think of this too, and I know this might be controversial, is consider every death a mistake. Okay, every time you die, it's a mistake. That's what you need to think of. Okay, so don't be too freaked out, like, oh my god, I got to preserve my KDA. People call them KDA players, but there is some truth to that. A lot of time, you want to make aggressive plays. You want to be hitting skill shots, initiating fights, doing all that kind of stuff, but there are always ways to do things without dying, okay? And that's one of the hallmarks of going up in ELO is people die less and less and less. That's why in pro games, some games, especially Korean games, the final score might be 3-5, right? Whereas like a bronze game, the final score might be 55-65 or something, right? So there is a correlation between dying less and higher skill. Okay, so don't buy into that crap where people say, oh, do whatever, your KDA doesn't matter, it just matters winning the game. Don't be a KDA player. Yes, be a KDA player. Now, don't do it to the extent of where you're not participating in fights because you're trying to preserve your KDA, right? So don't just bail on everybody, because you don't want to, a death on your record. But sometimes, and I'll tell you right now, one of my biggest mistakes is I don't bail enough. And I think that's with a lot of people. You try to go in, especially as support, and help people out who are in really bad situations, and you should have just left. You should have just left them to die. If people are doing really stupid stuff, just let them die. Try to ping them back. Try to get them not to do that. But, if Jax jumps into 3 people, and you're Tarek, do not go in there after him most of the time, right? So if you die, that is your mistake. That is not Jax's mistake for baiting you. You're in control of your character, and you have a brain. You can assess, is that a good decision or not? If it's not, do not do it. Let them die. Let the clowns have the fiesta. This is why I always recommend playing champions that are very good at fiestas too, right? So this is why I really like things like Janna and Rakan, because they can try to save people and also escape themselves. Whereas something like Alistar or Leona, if they go into a fiesta, if Jax jumps in 1v3 and you go in to try to help him out, if he dies, which he probably will, you're going to die. Whereas with Janna, you can roll up and throw a shield in a tornado and maybe try to ult people back, and you can still probably get away. Or Rakan, you can ult in and try to save people. If it doesn't work out, you just run away really quickly. So, just think of every death as a mistake. Think of that. So don't obsess with it, but think of it. Ask yourself how you could have avoided that. And then sort of as you're on that gray screen, replay in your mind, which decision should you have made? How could you improve that? How could you survive? Okay, so if you get your deaths to 3 or less, you will gain a lot of elo. Okay, so it's better to just set the game up to where you have 3 deaths or less and then work from there. Now, some people will say you need to learn your limits. You need to go out. You need to be aggressive. You need to fight and then figure it out and scale it back from there. That's true to some extent, but I think the vast majority of problems is people fighting too much. They are too aggressive. They don't understand. So you don't want to be someone who's super passive in lane and just gives the enemy a free pass and just lets them walk all over you. You want to have aggression, but it needs to be measured aggression where you're not dying. If you're dying, you're doing something wrong. That's what you need to be thinking in your mind. It's not okay. Trading is not okay. That's another concept. Like going in with Vayne and trading kills with their enemy AD carry where you get a kill and then they get a kill. That's not worth it most of the time. And the reason is you might think, well, I'm going to get a lot of gold, you know, from me and I scale really high. And yet to some extent, maybe that's true sometimes. But, you know, over time, over hundreds of games, if you do that, there will be times where you just die. So maybe you try to flash and kill them under tower and they have heal. Or maybe their jungler pops out just in time to save them. Or, you know, maybe anything random happens. Maybe they're just outside of your range. Maybe you miss a skill shot. Over time, if you're playing for trades, you're going to lose. Okay, you need to play for clean kills where you get out. All right, so that's what you need to play for. Even if you do trade very often, it takes you off the map. So with you off the map, you're losing experience, you're losing gold, you're losing the ability to pressure objectives. You're losing a lot of stuff when your screen is gray. Okay, and so yes, maybe like you go in, you trade a kill with Vayne against their Varus, like both of you trade kills. Well, maybe their Udyr says, hey, bot lane just died, so I can go pick up that dragon for free right now. And then maybe your jungler's on the top side of the map, and so Udyr just gets to roll up and get a free dragon because you traded kills. Whereas if you didn't trade those kills, Udyr's going to hesitate a little bit more to try that dragon if you're alive. Okay, because then he knows there's 2 people that could disrupt him at that dragon potentially. So, you know, especially you definitely don't want to trade if you're ahead. Because when you trade when you're ahead and you're off the map, that gives them more time to farm back into the game. And you're going to be worth a lot more because they're going to get shutdown gold. Like they're going to catch up in experience. Like there are just so many bad things that happen when your screen turns gray. You do not want to trade. Stay on the map. Do not die. That's what, even with assassins that scale really hard, you need to be learning how to play where you get clean kills and you're not going for trades. Okay, and the final thing, and then we'll try to wrap it up here in about an hour. Lower your champion pool and play strong champions. Okay? So I have an entire video about this called my one trick video. It's been very popular. It's got 33,000 views, which is huge for my channel. So people really like this video. There's a lot of good stuff going on there. But I talk about what the concept of one tricking is. A lot of the top end players are one tricks. Not everybody, but a lot of people are one trick. So if you look at MLG Blade, mostly Akali, some Irelia, pretty much an Akali one trick. I don't even know what Grig is. Mostly Lee Sin, sprinkle a Jace. Right, so almost everybody plays a lot of, you know, somewhere between 1 to 3 champions. Viper is almost all Riven. A lot of Riven. Okay, so you'll notice with a lot of these champions, it's not going to be even. You know, like they don't play every champion in the game 5 times. There's a very deliberate hierarchy of champions they play. This person plays Lee Sin a lot, twice as much as his second most played. And, you know, that's the same with pretty much everybody. This guy plays all Ryze. Okay, all Ryze, a little sprinkling of Azir and some other things. Now, his Ryze percentage is not amazing, but that's what he plays. Okay, and you'll see that's it with almost everybody. This person is a little more equilateral. That is rare. There aren't that many, so he plays everything almost evenly. So there are some champions like that. There's some people that are like that, but almost everybody, as you see, you know, their top 2 or 3 are the vast majority of champions played. And that's how you need to be. You need to focus on very few champions. This person's relatively equilateral, so there are some out there, but the vast majority of people have a very small champion pool. So check out the one trick video. I explain why I think that's a good idea. Basically, you get a lot of experience on a champion. You're going to know matchups, and that's going to free up a lot of your brain power to make better macro decisions in the game. That's kind of the super short end of it. But I talk about it in there, and I give you my top picks for one trick for each role, and then I have about 5 honorable mentions. So top 2 for each role, and then 5 honorable mentions, and I talk a lot about why that is. Okay, and I think about historical champions. So how good has the champion been over time? How well do I think it's going to do in the future, in the relatively near future, right? So I don't talk about things that are specifically hot right now on this patch, or like even what's going to be good on the next patch or 2, or what's been good for the last 3 patches. I'm looking at long-term structural ideas for why certain champions are good in solo queue. And here's just sort of a list. You need to play champions with these qualities in champion select, okay? So the more of these qualities, the better, okay? But it needs to have, I would say, at least 3 of these qualities to be really good in solo queue. So if you play champions that do not have a lot of these qualities, then you need to consider, you know, playing something else. Almost every champion's going to have, like, probably one of these. But you need to think about it. So crowd control. This is huge. So CC wins games. All right, this is historically true of any game, pretty much. If you have something that stuns or just otherwise does not allow the other player to do what they want to do, you're putting yourself at an advantage. Okay, it's a really simple concept. If there's crowd control, if it's something that stops the enemy from doing things, that's good. All right, so, you know, and this is the same for a lot of champions out there. What's good right now? Well, Leona's good, Alistar's good, Thresh is good. What do those all have in common? They all have a lot of crowd control. Okay? Like, even Janna has a decent amount of crowd control. She has her knock up with her tornado. She has a slow with her W. She has a knockback with her R. So she has 3 different forms of crowd control that are all decent. You think about, like, a lot of the good mid laners over the last season. Malzahar comes to hand. Great crowd control. Talia, pretty strong crowd control, right? She's got her slow. She's got her knock up or knock back with her W. Twisted Fate's really good. He's got a gold card for a 2-second stun. Rise has his snare. So a lot of the top tier champions are going to have crowd control. So that's something that is a hallmark. Think about a lot of the good junglers, right? Rammus, Sejuani, Maokai. There are exceptions. Shyvana and Xin Zhao are very good right now, and they don't have a lot of crowd control. So there are some exceptions, but most of the time, if things have a lot of crowd control, that's a good thing that you want. Mobility is another thing that's huge. Can the champion get around? Can it play safe? Can it get away from situations? Can it start fights? Can it jump over walls? Can it get back to lane quickly? Can it rotate quickly? So anything that can move a lot and has, you know, a lot of flexibility in team fights or in managing the macro state of the map is going to be good. So things that move, that are mobile, are good. And this is a problem with some champions like Darius, is he doesn't have any gap closers. He doesn't have any way to move quickly, really. Same thing with Nasus. Now, he does have like a wither to slow people down, but that's historically has been a problem of some champions that are very powerful. They just don't have a lot of mobility. So mobility is really important too. High scaling. I just mentioned this earlier in the video. You need to be thinking, okay, if the game goes to 25 minutes, am I going to outscale the enemy? Because a lot of games will go to 25 plus minutes. So if you're playing something that is not good at 25 plus, if you're playing Lee Sin, Pantheon, I know we just saw a lot of the very top of the ladder wins a lot with Lee Sin right now. It's not going to be true for most people and most ELOs, right? So I would highly recommend that you pick stuff that scales really hard into the late game. So you're picking things right now like Twitch, Vayne, Kassadin, Talia, maybe something like Maokai, just things that are going to be really good later on into the game. Okay, Rakan, Janna. Okay, useful in many compositions, especially if you're an early pick. You need to think of something that's flexible. So something like, okay, you know, like Rakan's a great example that I play a lot. It's like, okay, he can engage, he can peel, he scales really well with plus shielding and healing. You know, if we get a lot of auto attack champions, he can go Ardent Sensor, he can go Redemption, he can go Locket. You know, even if you don't have a split pusher, he can go Banner of Command. Like, there's so many different items he can buy. The same is true of someone like Thresh. He can engage, he can disengage, he can peel. He doesn't have like super terrible matchups. There are a lot of different itemization paths he can go. So things that are useful and very flexible in a lot of different comps. Talia is another one. You know, just things with great wave clear can kind of stall out the game. So she can rotate, play well. She can, if your team's behind, she can wave clear, make it difficult for the enemy team to siege her. She can, you know, has burst damage. A lot of different things she can do. Okay, so useful in many comps is important. Uniquely powerful. This is a little bit less important to consider in terms of your picks. This is more important to think of when you're thinking of banning certain champions out. But you want to think, am I playing the best possible champion for this type of role? Right? So if your team needs engage, is this the best engage champion I can possibly play? Or we need an enchanter, right? We need someone with shields. Is this the best shield type of champion that I can play? Because sometimes certain champions are just strictly better than other champions, a lot of times. So it's not that, like Leona is a great example. It's not that, and she's good right now, but historically Leona has had a lot of problems above silver because she just hasn't had enough power to really make someone want to play her over something like an Alistar or a Thresh or other engaged champions because she's very dangerous. She doesn't have a reverse gear. And historically, Alistar has just been a lot better than she does. He just roams better, he's tankier, and he just has... he's just more versatile because he can peel and engage because his knockback with the W is very powerful. It not only knocks people back for once, or like basically disables them for 1 second for a stun, but it also knocks them away. So it's really, really good peel, his headbutt. And the fact that it knocks people up is also really powerful because knockups do not get reduced by things like Mercury Treads. And obviously it's a setup for champions like Yasuo and his, you know, his ultimate. So, you know, Leona has often been crowded out. Now, she's very strong right now because she does a ton of damage. She does more damage than Alistar because of her interaction with Aftershock. But that's just an example of, you just want to be thinking, is this the best possible champion that I could be playing for this role? If there's someone else who does it a little bit better, maybe I should be learning that champion instead. Very limited counterplay is another good thing to play against. So things that just don't get countered very hard. This is one thing that makes Janna historically very powerful, is it's just not a lot of counterplay to her. Like, yeah, you can bully her out with some champs early in the game, but nothing that just like completely destroys her because she's very good against all-in engage a lot of times, and she can usually make it through poke, you know, depending on her runes and itemization. She can make it through poke. Now, they made that harder by making her shield have like an 18-second cooldown or a 20-second cooldown at level 1, so they tried to give her some more weaknesses, but she's still pretty strong. Rakan is similar to where there isn't a lot that really crushes him in lane. You know, and there are some... Alistar's another one. There's not a lot that really, like, crushes Alistar in lane. Because he has a heal to get through poke, and then he can get Targons, and he can itemize into, like, better health regen. He's always going to be relevant with his engage. So just champions like that, that don't have a ton of counterplay to them, can be really good. Like Ezreal right now is still pretty good, and there's just not a lot of good counterplay to Ezreal. Like Vayne's pretty good, but there's just not a lot of stuff that can get on him and just stop him from scaling and doing what he wants to do. Or like Talia, there's not a ton of counterplay, you know, to Talia. There's some, but she can just play back so far, and she's just going to scale so well that it's difficult. Or like Malachi doesn't have a ton of counterplay. So you want to be playing champions that don't have a lot of counterplay. Something that's consistent. Now, this is kind of a kind way of saying easy to play, but you'll see that a lot of pro players do not play the super flashy, like very difficult mechanical champions. Like you don't see a lot of pro players playing Yasuo or Riven. Like you might see them playing Azir or Zed sometimes, but it's rare. You don't see a lot of Zed either. They don't play assassins in general because they're not consistent. If they're not ahead, then they're going to lose a lot of the time. So even pro players, it's not that they can't play those champions. So it's not necessarily if you play consistent champions, it doesn't mean that you can't play high mechanical champions. Sometimes it might mean that, but it means that it's not smart to do that if you're trying to climb Elo, right? Like, why play something like a Yasuo? I mean, I understand the fun factor, right? Aside from the fun, and it's interesting, and it's flashy, all of that aside, in terms of just trying to win games at League of Legends, like, why would you play something that there are a million different ways you can make mistakes on when you could play something that is just much more consistent, where if you're ahead, behind, even, you can always be relevant in the game. You can always be powerful. So like Malachi, for example, even if he falls really far behind, and this is patch 7.24b, by the way, like right before the start of Season 8, even if you fall really far behind, he's still always going to be pretty good. Or like Janna or Rakan, because they scale so well with their shields, you know, they're always going to be relevant. So they are consistent. They're useful. Like Twitch. You can bet that at 25 minutes, I don't care what Twitch's score is, he's probably going to be relevant in the game because he just does a ton of damage later on. So you're just looking for champions that are going to consistently give you the kind of results that you want to get. Things that have a very low probability for you messing them up. This is why, I mean, there's a reason at the World Championships 2017, Crown played Malzahar every single time it wasn't banned, I'm pretty sure. I think he may have played it 3 of 3 times in the finals. I can't remember if they finally banned it out against him the 3rd time. And he's a super simple champion to play for the most part, right? So Crown's not trying to have a measuring contest with Faker, right? In the middle lane. He's not saying, bring it on, Faker. I'm going to play Azir. You're going to play Zed. Let's do this. You know, he's not playing some of the hardest mechanical champions. He's saying, hey, I want to win these games. This World Championship, I just want to win. So he plays Malzahar. Very consistent. Not flashy. He's not going to, you know, get a ton of solo kills on Faker. But he's going to be very useful, even if he falls behind to Faker in lane, which is probable. So you just play consistent, useful champions. And that's how you climb. Like, yeah, you know I'm saying that when a lot of people are playing Lee Sin, who's not consistent at all, people are playing things like Riven, all these really hardcore things that, you know, I don't recommend that people play. But just for, you know, everyday Joe, everyday Jane that are watching this, you know, that are in gold or silver, platinum, even low diamond, it's really, really good advice to just play stuff that's relatively simple to play. Now, I know that may not be the most fun thing to do out there, but think of it not as simple. Think of it as consistent. You want a high win percentage. And that's why, I mean, if you look, and this is going to be the end of the video, if you look here at some of the highest win rate champions, now this isn't always true, but a lot of the champions are going to be champions that are relatively easy to execute compared to other champions. Now, Taric does have his sort of ins and outs, right? Like, he's got his gameplay to him. You know, every champion does have some skill. I'm not saying there are brain-dead champions. I'm just saying you're never going to see Bard or Thresh as the #1 highest win percentage champion because they're hard to play, right? You're never going to see Rakan as the #1 champion. You're never going to see Lulu as the #1 champion. Right? Highest win rate champion. Lulu might be able to creep up there eventually, but those champions have difficult decisions to make. Right? That doesn't mean they're bad. I mean, look, like Thresh and Rakan are about 50%. Bard's pretty close to 50%. That doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that they're difficult to play. They're not consistent for a lot of people. Now, if you play those champions a lot, they can be really, really good. But they're just a little bit harder to play. And you see that like mid lane. Same thing mid lane. You're not going to see Katarina's never going to be #1 mid laner, even though she's very strong right now. Just the fact that she's not consistent. She's hard to play. So for the vast majority of people, you know, it might be advisable to play something that's more consistent. You know, play Malzahar. Play something like Anivia, right? Mid lane. So it's just something to think about. You know, if we look at the jungle, it's Shyvana, Rammus, Warwick. Very consistent champions. You know, your Shaco's and your Evelyns are going to be down here a little bit because they're harder to play. They're assassins. They have tougher choices. They're really bad if you're behind. Whereas these champions are, I mean, none of these are great if you're behind, but they just have more opportunities to be impactful later on in the game. Either through scaling or crowd control or whatever. Okay, but that's going to be it for this video. And, you know, more than anything, when I'm talking about lowering your champion pool and playing all this stuff, play what wins. I mean, this is what I always say on tier list videos. If you are, you know, if you win with the champion, just play it. You know, if you look at my tier list videos, I get this all the time, like on my one trick video. If you look, almost every question here that people ask down in the comments, what about this champion? What about that champion? What about this champion? You know, I'm trying to talk specifically about, you know, what I think are really good one tricks. And I explain it analytically a lot, but everyone always is like, I win with this champion a lot. Why is Teemo not on there? Why is Nasus not on there? Why is Yorick not on there? You know, why is whatever? You know, why is Taric not on there? What about Vi? What about Singed? What about Aurelian Soul? What about Warwick? What about Shen? You know, everybody has something to say. What about Zen? This guy's just like, just really mad that I didn't mention Zen on there. What about Cassiopeia? So, I mean, the bottom line is when you're looking at any tier list video, think about it as like, okay, those are some ideas. That's good. But tier lists and just any video that someone makes on YouTube is not tailored specifically for you. Unless you, like, you know, pay for a guide for me and I'm talking specifically to you, which has happened a couple of times, but it's rare. Most of these tier list videos, all this stuff, is for a huge population, right? There's 16,000, almost 17,000 subs to this channel, right? I'm not talking to each and every person watching this. I'm giving general advice for everybody watching this. So there are always going to be exceptions, right? And so do what wins for you. You know, if you win top lane as Heimerdinger every game, play Heimerdinger. If you win, you know, Nasus jungle every game, play Nasus jungle. Sometimes, you know, certain champions just click with certain people. They just have it figured out. It just makes sense in their mind. They just really enjoy the champion. And that's fine. That's fine, okay? But this, for the general population, this is the stuff that you want to be thinking about when you're picking champions that'll help you win it from champion select. But if you're, you know, if you just really, really click with a champion, you know, even if it's not the top of all the tier lists, or even if it doesn't meet a lot of these criteria here, or even if I don't mention the one trick, just play it. If you win, if you have a high percentage, just play it. Okay? So that's going to be it. Thank you very much. So remember, this is just good tips to help you win in Champion Select. Just dodge more games, try to figure out which games you should dodge, and then just think about the long con. Not every game, but how to win the season. Just don't surrender games. Try to learn something from every game. Lower your champion pool, and just play effective champions. Okay, thank you very much. Have a good day, and I'll see y'all next time.